So we're here to talk about creating opportunities and pathways to the NBA and NFL. My name is Sandra Ejiro Abo. I am the moderator today. I am the co-founder of Atlas, a content studio based out of Nigeria. Shout out to Lanre, my co-founder, who can't be here today. We have a documentary coming out this summer ahead of the Olympics for Ethiopia Busan. So hopefully you guys can check that out. I'm also founder of Just Media, and here I have my special friends, as I mentioned. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
So I'm Ishel Lupo, a debutant, co-founder of Flourish Sports Group and Educational Basketball.
I'm Olotobi Debutant, co-founder of Flourish Sports Group and Educational Basketball as well.
So what we are is we're a player development program founded in 2015 here in Lagos, Nigeria. The whole objective is to get athletes from here to the U.S. for schools and to play in the professional leagues. Fortunately for us, we have 3 current NFL players who came straight from Lagos, Nigeria. We have 2 NFL players who just had their pro day 2 weeks ago, so we're hoping that they sign with the team sometime in April. We have 3 college players playing at Division I, which is the highest level of college basketball in the U.S. We have another one playing junior college, which is just under D1, but he's still doing a good job there. And we have 2 D1 college football players. One of them was the #1 international recruit in the world, and the other one was top 5 in the world as well, playing Division I football in the U.S. as well. So that's what we do. That's what we're about.
Yeah, the overview of our program, or the overview of basketball sports in Nigeria in general, is that it's growing, it's burgeoning, it's developing. Things are meeting in the middle. It's a blessing to see so many people from the diaspora want to come back here to either invest, find talent, or to nurture talent on the sports side and also on the business side of sports as well. It's good to see so many different investments happening. There was a groundbreaking by the Palms for a new stadium. Many people are now interested in setting up their own programs, their own itineraries. So it's good to see. And I think 10 years ago we were not in this position, but 10 years later from now we're going to be in a really good position, I believe. So that's my belief in all of this. So it's a blessing to be in Nigeria at this point right now, for sure.
Awesome. Speaking of the landscape of the Nigerian sports space ecosystem and West Africa at large, even Africa, if you look at it, do you guys have any insight or things to talk about? In America, the NFL team Cleveland Browns just announced an exclusive marketing partnership here in Nigeria, and you see obviously the commercial shot in Accra with some NFL players. So I feel like this is a boom and it's just only going to expand and continue to grow. But did you guys have any thoughts about that?
We're excited for that. It's good that at least the NFL team has taken a chance to actually invest. Even though it's their own team, they still want to come here and at least sell to Nigerians. In Ghana, I think it was the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles. They were the first ones to touch Africa. They did it in Ghana. So it's good that the Cleveland Browns are actually doing it in Nigeria. And, hopefully different NFL teams will end up doing the same thing across Africa. It's just another opportunity and another way to grow the game of American football, and so people can be exposed to it and watch it. So
wonderful. And just speaking about the landscape, what are some key challenges faced by individuals trying to break into professional leagues?
The first thing has to be going back to the youth landscape. In the States or in Europe, kids are playing at 5, 6 years old. They're harnessing that talent. And that's not here right now. You don't have institutions that are invested in creating those platforms just for kids to at least be able to rise through the elite ranks from a young age. A player like from Slovenia, Luka Doncic, was playing at 6. LeBron was playing from 8. Messi was playing from 5. We don't have that right now. So one of the most important things right now have to be people need to take charge and say they need to set up their own things so that kids can start playing from at whatever age it may be, 5, 10, 15, whatever it may be. Schools don't have the don't have the scholastic pipeline to say, okay, you can play against another school. You don't see British International School playing against AIS. You just don't see that right now. So those are things that need to change. Also on the national front, of course, not to be too critical, but it's just being honest. There's not the investment in places of national sport, whether it's a national stadium or your local government. You don't have that community that's tied into sports culture to say, let's go watch such and such on a Friday afternoon. Let's go watch this kid play after school. In the States, you have literal people, who go to work and say, I'm going to go watch the top ranked player in my city after school. We don't have that yet. So those are some of the challenges we all face. And yeah.
Wonderful. I think this is a great segue to talk about developments and training. You guys obviously have your academies. So I think one of the things people are probably most interested, whether they have children that are aspiring athletes or someone here, wants to just know about like what skills or things can someone do to help prepare themselves for opportunities in the NBA and the NFL.
Okay. Well, first, our program, with everything I said, our program creates, bridges the gap. You have kids that are 5 that have joined our program. You have kids that are 10 that have joined our program. You have kids that are 15 of both genders. And we find that after a 6-month period, they have blossomed into a whole new athlete, whether they have a different type of coordination, speed, core strength. They're able to shoot a lot better. They're able to run faster, those types of things. So, when we have players that come through our program, we first and foremost tell them to develop as athletes first, because you don't really know at a young age what sport you're going to play. You don't know at 12 if you're going to be a soccer player. You don't really know. It's up to you to kind of have that belief, but at the same time, things can go any way. Emmanuel Koye, who was the number 1 international prospect for football, he would have been, in our opinion, a very elite basketball player, somebody that would have played in the NBA, 6'5" with a 40-inch vertical. And, when we recruited him, he was still looking for a basketball opportunity. It just so happened that football came at the right time. And we just told him to come to the field one day. And he's running a 4.5 on a 40-yard dash, jumping 40-inch vertical. And if you see his size, the things that he had translated to the NFL. So one of the things we always tell people, and we tell parents in general, is just for, if you want to play, if you want your child to play, to invest in yourself athletically, starting at a young age, or even if you are 15, just be getting in the gym, working on your core strength, working your agility, work on your speed, work on your deceleration, your acceleration, change your direction, so that, these things can meet in the middle. If you do notice, a soccer player, if you put them on the basketball court, they're going to be the best athlete on the basketball court. If you put a football player on the basketball court, they're going to be the best athlete on the basketball court, because they already have tapped into so many different things that are required for their sport. If you put a basketball player on the football field, sometimes it depends on if they can move well, if they can run fast, if they can shoot well, those types of things, So it's just about being well-rounded as an athlete, and then letting things kind of take off from there.
Okay, great. So Ishe, Lupo, this is for you. Your brother's talking about, getting the kids early into training and things like that. I want to pose the question about infrastructure. You guys have mentioned all the great things you've done for athletes, but despite, proper training facilities, resources, how have you guys been able to manage that? And how important is coaching, proper, management and facility for aspiring athletes?
Coaching is the most important thing. First, if you don't have a good coach, you can't play. It's just a reality. You can watch YouTube, you can watch Instagram videos all you want, but at the end of the day, and you can try and copy it. And it's good though, because I mean, at least you're trying. But if you're not having a coach who's actually teaching you the right way, you're not really going to go anywhere. And I don't want to sound bad when I say that. I'm just being honest. So, you know, for us, our whole objective is making sure that you were teaching the right way. Can you use both hands? Can you use both feet? Do you have good hand-eye coordination? Are you fast? If not, how can you get faster? If you're not strong, how can you get stronger? So, you know, that's the most important thing. When it comes to infrastructure, though, I mean, unfortunately, we all know in Nigeria, there's just no infrastructure. So even we struggle with that. You know, if we had our own facility, man, we'll probably have like 10 players going every year, I promise. But because we've been limited due to the infrastructure, we're only able to do so much. Just imagine, you know, if you have a place where athletes can stay and do their thing and train 3 times a day, which is normal in every parts of the world, how far along Nigeria and Africa will be. But it just seems like, you know, guys and girls are only able to train in the mornings or maybe in the evenings, but then they have school. And, you know, in the U.S., yeah, you have school, but they still train in the mornings, 5 a.m., 5 to 6, then they go to school. Then they have their team practice in the evenings. Then they play during the week or they play on the weekends. So the system there is just rounded out for people to be successful. In Nigeria, unfortunately, it's not rounded out for everybody to be successful. It's rounded out for you to just like suffer. And then just somebody from the U.S. come and just say, oh, I'm going to take you and change your life. But like, we're not I don't want to sound bad when I say this, but like, we're not a charity here in Nigeria. We're not. We want everybody here is talented. You know, it's not the stories of, oh, we're going to pick up this child from the streets of Nigeria and change his life. That's good. Those are fantastic stories. I'm not saying it's not. But at the same time, if you take a kid and you're just like, okay, you're a great athlete, you may not have much, which is okay. But if we just promote you as a great athlete, we're not going to talk about your family or where you come from. If we just say you're a great athlete, you're rich already. You get what I'm saying? Your wealth is already inside of the athlete. It's just a matter of marketing it the right way. So that's kind of where my stance on everything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Getting rid of that novelty and romanticism of from rich to poor or poor to rich or whatever. So I can definitely understand that. It's just about creating that platform and shying away from the redundancy of that kind of story.
Yeah.
So let's talk about recruitment, right? You guys mentioned you have a number amount of collegiate players in the U.S. competing at the top level for D1 schools. So for the people here, those wondering, what are some of the strategy and pathways to get to, you know, Division I schools in the U.S., and how does the collegiate system in the U.S. help athletes here?
First and foremost, in regards to recruiting in general, let me just say this. If everybody in this room were a 12-year-old today, we would be recruiting just off the fact that everybody that has a body is an athlete. And we can take things from there to say, okay, let's look at your size. Let's look at how you move. Let's do this. And then we work from there. It's all about just, you know, because we're in Nigeria, we have an incredibly population, and the majority of the people in the country are under 18 years old. So there are LeBrons on the street. There are Giannis's on the street. There's a Messi on the street. They just have to be in the right place at the right time, or it's kind of our job to go look for them. That's really the way that we recruit. So, for example, we saw saw Emmanuel Okorafor, who's now at Louisville, just one day on Instagram. He just had a discussion with him. And we just told him to come by. And when he came by, we saw that he had the tools necessary to be successful. And he was living in Festac. So we kind of pitched, it doesn't really matter if you're whatever background you come from. We recruit you and we say, this is what you're in your future. Do you want to do this or not? If you do want to do this, this is what we believe is going to happen for you. So Emmanuel Okorafor was coming 3 times a week from Festac, 2 hours a day just to train, do what he needs to do, this and that. And as time progressed, he was improving. He was taking those steps that he needs to do. His body was maturing. And luckily at this time, the NBA Academy in Senegal became a thing. So a contact was made, and initially they liked him, as they do many, many kids. But their whole mindset is that we need to see more. We need to see you playing at a high level to say, oh, we're going to take you on. Now, if you put Emmanuel Korfa at that same stage of his life in the States, he'll just be going to a regular high school playing. And then he'll be playing on an AAU team. And because there's so many different AAU teams, the team will say, okay, you can just come play with us every weekend. Let's see how it goes. You can have a trainer, this and that. And if he becomes an elite player, so many shoe companies now have teams. Nike has a team. Adidas has a team. Under Armour has a team. So a player like that would just end up playing on the team free of charge. It's basically like you're playing for a basketball version of Barcelona or Real Madrid in a sense. Though you're not living on campus, you're still playing at a high level with that team. But out here, kids only have so many options. The NBA Academy is an option, or you kind of have to find a way to travel across the pond, or you have to be playing, in a league here and try to make it out from here. So with Emmanuel, the NBA Academy came through, and by the grace of God, they took him on, and now his pathway went from there to Louisville. And during this pathway, there was an assistant coach that reached out to us and said, many kids in Africa, or many kids that are 6'10 or 6'11 in Africa, they don't have the skill set that Emmanuel Korfa had. Where did he train at? And that's the only reason why that coach reached out to us, was because he saw that Emmanuel Korfa had a certain skill set that he could play at so many different positions. He could play a guard, he could play big man, he could play in between. So in terms of recruiting out here, it's very, very, it's different, but it's up to not only the player, but whoever's coaching that player needs to be dynamic. They need to tap into certain things and say, this player needs to stand out so he can get an opportunity. If a player is 6'10 or 6'11, he has to be either dominant or he has to have a certain skill set for a place like the NBA Academy or a place like a school like Oak Hill to say, let's take you on, So, those are the challenges that many kids do face. But at the same time, the kids really, really have to want it in that process. I mean, there's only so much that a kid can do, but at the same time, there are a lot of success stories. So it is possible. It is possible.
The second part
Sure.
of the question.
Yeah, so I want to get a little bit more specific. If you could name the different alternative pathways to the NBA and NFL, I think that would be really helpful, because we talked about the collegiate system in the U.S., but I think it's important to kind of have people be able to weigh out what are their options.
So I would say it's specific pathways to the NBA. I mean, it's college basketball, or playing in Europe. Those are the only two specific pathways that you can go there. In order to get to college, though, you got to go through the recruiting process. It's hard. Like he said, though, it's hard from Nigeria to go through that. It's just when it comes to basketball. But it does happen. Not with America. With football, though, the NFL side, there's the International Pathway Program, which was established, I think, in 2017. But they just branched into Africa 2021 after COVID. So they're actually actively looking for players. They have camps. They had a camp in Ghana in 2022. They had a camp in Kenya last year. They have another camp this year. That's a pathway, a direct pathway to the NFL, aside from college again, and maybe playing in Canada or playing in Europe as another pathway.
Awesome. So in Nigeria, what does the current landscape look like when it comes to development programs and academies like you guys? Would you say there are other people in the space doing the same things you guys are doing? Do aspiring athletes or those training come to you guys? What does the local market look like?
There are other people who do what we do, and shout out to them for at least trying to do something for the community. For us, though, what was the second part of the question?
For just what the local market looks like, right? So if you're Nigerian today and you're ages 8 through 18, right? What are the pathways? Obviously, there's educational basketball, Flourish Sports Group, just giving athletes different options as far as how to get to these international leagues, basically.
It's just school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just school. That's in all honesty, that's literally one of the only ways. Schools and having to go to Europe or trying to get to the U.S. Those are the ways.
Okay. This is kind of a follow-up, but how can athletes leverage international leagues, development programs, or other avenues to showcase their talents? You guys already kind of spoke to that, but do you have anything else you want to add?
Social media is helping a lot of kids go across the pond. I mean, not because, there's so many different programs coming over here. It's up for the athlete to be prepared. Because when they're prepared, a program can come. Recently, there was a program called Bridge on Imports that came to Nigeria sometime in November, and they were interested in 2 of our athletes. They were the only 2 athletes they were recruited in because we prepared them for the whole year, from January throughout the whole year. So, it's a tricky thing to be dealing with if you are an athlete in Nigeria, but you just have to be prepared because that time is definitely coming where you will meet a program or meet an institution that's interested in your gifts. So, yeah.
Awesome. I think the next topic is close and dear to me because it's about mentorship and guidance. So I have a younger brother. He's in his early 30s now, and at the time, he was playing for a D1 school, FAU in Florida, and he was a walk-on to the Cleveland Browns. And during that process of recruitment, highlight tapes, all these things, and this is America, being a Nigerian American, we didn't really have guidance or access. He made a lot of mistakes, and he's looking back like, man, I wish I had that support and guidance. And I think that is the one thing that affects a lot of athletes today. They just don't know what to do, and a lot of the parents are dumbfounded because this is relatively new, right? Like having us as Africans, Nigerians, getting into this space, not only from a talent perspective, but the business itself. So at least here in Nigeria, how important is mentorship and guidance, and how can a parent specifically, find those resources or support they need to help their sons or daughters into professional sports?
I'd say therapy, to be honest. Therapy is very important, especially for guys. We like to be all tough and stuff, even when we're not on the court. So, being vulnerable as a guy, if you're with your girl, you're going to be vulnerable. But if you're playing sports and things like that, you're never going to be vulnerable. So if you're just out here all the time, being macho and things like that, you're going to end up slipping up. That's just the reality. But if you have a mentor or somebody who can actually guide you, somebody who's made mistakes, and they can actually show you the ropes so you don't make those same mistakes, is actually very important. I found in Nigeria, though, it's hard to find good mentors. It's hard to find. It's hard to even find therapy.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of therapists in Nigeria. I wish I did. It'll help the younger generation for sure. Because you have guys now on social media, because social media is so huge. Imagine a 15-year-old kid in Nigeria looking at another 15-year-old in America or in Europe and comparing themselves. They're automatically going to be depressed. Like, they're automatically just going to be like, man, what is this? Why am I living like this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Boys and girls. And that's where like an inferiority complex becomes to be born. But, if there's therapy when it comes to that, or if there's a mentor who can say, hey, don't worry about that. That's their path. Your path is going to be different. You can still make it. That makes all the difference. So
I think also in mentorship, it comes down to parents and the older ones as well. Like, if you have a parent that's been playing the sport in your house, you already have an athlete that can guide you in this process. If your dad plays soccer, it's very incumbent on that parent to say, let me teach my kid how to play soccer. Let me teach my kid how to play basketball. I can at least help in that process. I also think that, mentorship also, because we don't have coaches in school. Well, we do have coaches in school, but they're not really coming from that elite level. So it really does come down to investment from different, just people in general, even people in entertainment. In the States, an AU team is funded by an actor or a rapper or somebody in industry, that's where mentorship starts, because somebody from his team is leading a youth basketball team from ages under 8, under 12, under 15, under 20. So from there, outside of your house already, you have mentorship when you leave your house for what you want to pursue in life. You know, those things are very, very invaluable.
I love that you connected the entertainers, because we know that Afrobeats is pretty large here. And if you look at the U.S., for those who listen to hip hop and rap, G Herbo, Lil Durk from Chicago, they support AAU teams. Yes. Quavo has Team Honcho in Atlanta.
Exactly.
So it's so important to connect those dots. And I think that's a great point. And speaking of entertainers, I mean, what are your thoughts about established athletes who are active, former athletes? Like, where does their role play in mentoring the superstars of tomorrow?
Right now, I would say the ones that are here, many people are still learning about entertainment here, so they kind of have a lot on their own plate to kind of figure out. But the ones in the States who are in the UK, they're definitely interested. They definitely want to help. You know, the conversation's a lot different than what it was 10 years ago. But, you know, trust is one thing. You know, is the kid being sincere? Are the programs doing what's necessary? And is the infrastructure even there to even get a kid going or get a program going? And two, just in general, I think, you know, entertainers or people in the industry, they play a big role in just guiding young kids that want to do this. They really do. They're very, very valuable, because people in sports are already looking up to them.
Right.
So you can imagine, for example, if somebody like WizKid or Burna Boy had a basketball team, just think about how far that would actually go. It would be huge, you know? So people are interested. It's just about connecting those dots and just trusting the whole process of, you know, if somebody in entertainment wants to have a team, then you have to have, you know, the whole operations in order. So, you know, we know how things can be from a corruption standpoint in Nigeria. So it's just about trust. But, you know, those things are happening surely, for sure.
Yeah.
And what I would say, though, for like current players, though, like current NFL players, NBA players, you know, Giannis was here with obviously homecoming, WhatsApp in July or something. The fact that they were even able to see him.
Yep.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that changed people's lives, especially the youth. They can always say that they saw Giannis in person. And, you know, with the NFL Africa program, they have current NFL players actually coming to Nigeria or coming to different parts of Africa and giving back to the program and mentoring guys for a few days. So that definitely helps as well.
I love that. And I think that it's incumbent on us and those in this space to make sure we're promoting that, so people are well aware and can potentially meet these athletes and just, you know, put a highlight, because once there's a highlight, more and more athletes will want to do the same. So one of the things that we've seen over and over again is that when an athlete makes it, you know, sometimes financially they're not responsible and they lose a lot of their funds. So when it comes to financial literacy, how important is financial literacy to just the overall trajectory and success of an athlete?
That's the most important thing, to be honest, because, you know, you're making a lot of money in a short period of time. You know, if you're making, let's say, $5 million a year from ages 21 to 30, or even 21 to 25, that's still a lot of money. That's life-changing money. But after you're done playing, what do you have? What next? You're no longer making that amount of money. You're no longer able to have that private jet lifestyle, private boat lifestyle. I mean, but it depends on your investment in the past. Where have you funded everything? Are you looking to take care of your grandkids, or are you just looking to take care of yourself? So financial literacy is very important. You know, even for the guys who are in the league now from Nigeria. I mean, they didn't make any money in Nigeria. They're nothing, literally, only from their parents. Their parents would give them money just to do whatever, but they didn't earn money from work. So now imagine going from Nigeria to the U.S. to the big leagues, and now you're making six figures, just like that. Like how you expect to see even first, and then you got to take care of your family back in Nigeria. Then you got to take care of your boys. or your crew or whatever. Then you want to try and buy jewelry. Then you want to try and have the best cars and all of that. And that's cool, but you can't do that forever. You can only do that for a short period of time. So financial literacy is very, very important. I think about 65% of NFL players, after they're done playing, go broke. They go broke 5 years after they're done playing. And it's kind of like, how? But it happens. There's an NBA player, Delonte West. He played with LeBron. I mean, unfortunately, he was living under a bridge. He was a fantastic player. He went broke. Even Allen Iverson went broke.
Yep.
So it happens, you know.
Incredible. So we've touched on this previously about mental health and therapy. So one of the last questions I have, you've already mentioned it, but if you can both of you expound more on how important mental health is to just remain active, to be able to focus, to be able to handle the amount of pressure and transition. You know, are there solutions or advice you have for a young player?
Keep God first.
Amen.
I mean, that's literally all the most part. You keep God first. Got you to that position in the first place. So if you keep him as the center, your mental health will be fine. But if you start comparing yourself to other people, if you forget God who got you there, I mean, he'll just take it away. I've seen it happen. So, you know, that's one thing that I would say.
Invest in yourself. I mean, even people in here or people wherever, you know, who love sports, you find that when you go get a shot up or where you go kick a soccer ball after a long day of work or a long week, you feel refreshed. You feel empowered. You feel like you can do anything for like a good 30 minutes or an hour, even people that go to the gym. So, you know, mental health in that aspect is, I mean, mental health for an athlete, whenever they're picking up a ball, they already feel free. They already feel like they're at home. It's what they do outside of that now. You know, like we just talked about financial literacy, when guys get all this money, how are you spending your money? How are you investing your resources? Because you don't want to fall flat one day and then have a dependent situation where you're depressed or where you're feeling a certain way because you had all these resources at your disposal and then you just lost it, you know? But for kids in general, I would tell kids that have dreams, that have aspirations, just to keep the main thing. It's the same thing you would say to any kid in the world that's actually playing an elite sport. You just have to stay focused. You can't really compare yourself to somebody else's journey because what's for you, it's for you. You know, there are players that were the number one pick that only lasted like a few years. There are players that were the last pick, like for example, the last pick in the NFL draft, Brock Purdy. He was the Super Bowl quarterback for the 49ers. You know, there are players from our program that were here in the IPP that are in the NFL. There are players over there who were the top players that are not in the NFL. Everybody's journey is different, so you have to trust what you got going for yourself. And like I said, keep your education first. If you're a parent, make sure your kid is doing that first because you can't play if your grades are not good. Then from there, just make sure that they're applying wisdom to the journey that they want to take on. They shouldn't be doing too much of one thing. They shouldn't be doing too much basketball if they want to be a basketball player. They need to switch it up. They shouldn't be doing too much football, too much soccer if they're aspiring because it will be an overload at some point. And then one day you just crash. You know, a young athlete should know what it is to try different things and just to be creative so that they can have just a different outlook and a peace of mind to say, you know, at some point they trust themselves as an athlete. They know where to go. They know how to go. And at the same time, you know, they know how to progress in life in general. So, yeah.
Thank you. So last question before we open it up to the audience for questions. Let's look at the future. Let's fast forward 5 to 10 years. Where do you see recruitment, trends, and talent development when it comes to the NBA and the NFL?
In Nigeria?
Yeah, Nigeria, and I would say Africa as a whole.
I'm not going to lie. This place is it. I'm not going to lie.
RG.
This place is it when it comes to recruiting and talent. This place is the truth. Like, there's too many kids here. There's too much talent here. It's unbelievable. You can see a woman walking the street. I see a woman walking the street, and I look, and I'm like, this is a basketball player. I see another woman walking the street. I'm like, this is a track and field superstar. The next minute you look around the corner, you see somebody that's like 6'7". You're like, imagine if this guy was playing basketball from the young age. Masai said it in an interview that, there are LeBrons, there are Giannis's, there are Tony Parkers, there are Joe Noahs. Some of them are just 60 years old now.
Yep.
Because they just didn't have that opportunity. So now because people are investing, now because infrastructure is getting better, 10, 15 years from now, you're going to see something incredible. Incredible. I mean, every NFL team has a strong it has strong ties to Nigeria, whether they're first generation Americans over there or they came from here. Every NBA team has at least a Nigerian player on it. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. And because we have 250 million people here, let's think 10 years down the line what it's going to look like. If we ourselves can already have 3 people in the NFL in a year, just on recruiting alone, not even without even like infrastructure or even like stadiums and all that stuff, imagine what it would be like 10, 15 years from now. So if you're in sports journalism, if you're in media, if you have a kid that wants to play, I just say just get on it.
Sit tight, right?
I'm good.
Yeah, if I had to bet from what I've seen across not just the NBA and NFL, is talent recruitment. A lot of agencies being built, management, getting their hands on young athletes before they go to the U.S. We're talking PFL with Francis Ngannou, right? We're talking Kamaru coming out here doing African knockout. Messi wants to go here. Victor Oladipo. It's a lot of movement. So that's one of the things we talk as friends. We're just telling ourselves to just hang tight. It's frustrating. It's tough. But what's going to happen is what we see in Afrobeats, we'll see in the sports ecosystem here. So
yeah, 1 in 5. They said by 2050 that 1 in 5 people on the planet will be
African.
So if you already look at sports right now, in soccer, Mbappe is the best player in soccer. In American football, Patrick Mahomes is the best player. In basketball, the top players of all time are African American. So they already have the genes from here already. So now if we're implementing systems here that help these guys go through certain pathways from a young age and they're identified as the best players, even from 18, a gem can come out of the ballpark and be like the best player you've ever seen. These things are going to happen here. So, the future is incredibly bright for people that are sports fans, for people that are parents of young sports athletes. So I just say, just keep the hope alive and just keep it moving. Things are going to happen for sure.
All right. Thank you. So we would like to open the floor to questions. Does anyone have questions about just...
I appreciate you guys doing this talk. So it seems to be like the approach now is to export the talent from Nigeria. Have you thought about, when we think about like 5 to 10 years, 15 years, have you thought about like growing the local leagues and maybe just starting that pathway to create our own leagues here in Nigeria or the continent? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, You don't see Americans exporting their talent. They're keeping it there. Even Europeans are keeping it there. So I don't really like how we do have to export our talent and then you get money in return for it. It's just weird when you think about it that way. So it is good to actually grow the leagues here in Nigeria, but obviously that comes from funding. I mean, the government's supposed to have done that, but at the same time, you have private leagues. The NBA is a private league. The NFL, they're private leagues. The team owners are people. It's not Houston who owns the team. It's a person who owns the team. So if we do the same thing here in Nigeria, if everybody here has a team and we have a league, that's it right there. Like imagine if there's a homecoming basketball league and there are different owners of each team and they play, just as everybody knows homecoming. So just imagine if we have that and all of a sudden the players are getting paid. They no longer have to just go abroad. They can go for summer and come back. They don't have to be like, I want to leave Nigeria. I want to cut ties with Nigeria and go play over there and not come back again. But only say, and just because I have some money. or come back to try and front and stunt. What if we actually grow everything here and keep it here? Go over there every now and then. I think that's the good thing. So we're hopeful for that as well. Great question.
Yeah, really great question.
Hi guys. So this is a two-part question. First, so I'm not sure about like Nigerian schooling, like when you're like from middle school, elementary, because I didn't go to school here, but is it required to play sports in this, like in the educational curriculum, like when they're in, I don't know what they call it here, like primary 2 or something, JS2? Is it required for them to play sports?
Right. I don't know if it's required. I don't know if it's a part of that curriculum. I think it needs to be.
Well, that was my next part, was that I feel like maybe Nigerians have like an idea of what they think success is. And usually like parents, especially older parents, they don't look at like sports and entertainment as ways that you could actually make it. You know what I mean? And I think that if it was required for students to play sports in school from youth, or like have like a gym curriculum, or have like maybe the programs that you guys have, and you guys do special programs where you guys go to different schools all over the country and kind of just introduce the idea of, you know, playing sports. I think that could be revolutionary, because like once you go to somebody and tell them like, listen, I'm making millions in dollars, hundreds of thousands in dollars off playing sports, off athletic ability, something that comes natural, you know, I think that could really change the game and change the narrative of non-traditional ways of success, you know? I don't know, something just think about.
Nah, you're right. What you're saying is perfect, because even us, when we've told some parents that, yo, your kid will get a scholarship, they actually look down on it.
Wow.
Because they're like, oh no, I'm going to pay for my kid to go to school. Can you imagine? And your kid is going to get a scholarship to either go to a college or go to a university for $100,000 a year, and you don't have to pay for it. But they're like, we've had that before. So I can answer that in two different ways. I can say that the first way is that the reason why it's not a part of the curriculum is because of the culture. The sports culture in this country is not an everyday culture yet. It's getting there, but it's not something that, for example, every day we all gather, every Tuesday or Thursday, we all gather around and say, let's go watch an NBA game, or let's go every Sunday, let's go watch such and such play football, or let's go watch such and such go skate or run. So we kind of have to brand that a bit better and introduce this idea or these pathways of looking forward to seeing somebody every week, looking forward to seeing someone play basketball or shoot. I think we're getting there slowly.
Yeah.
I think we are, because now more than ever, the NBA has television rights here, so people are already interested in the idea of watching somebody. We just have to make that connection on the ground here. And we kind of have to elevate the idea here of
Commercializing.
yes, commercializing sports business here. Looking forward to seeing somebody in action 2-3 times a week. From there, schools will understand the importance of, let me just say this, schools are missing out on a whole lot of money because they don't invest in sports.
There you go.
A whole lot of money. Private schools, if you're charging extra for your kid to actually go to a school that is including sports in their curriculum, and that kid is not only just going to school, but has adequate training in the school from JS1 to SS3, like that can be huge for private school. That's more money. So if a private school is having more money, why should they not invest in that? That's a wonderful question, and it's interesting, and I find it quite odd that schools haven't really sat down and said, let's just invest in sports as well. You know, some of these schools have built facilities, but they haven't invested in the curriculum, or the curriculum and talent development go hand in hand in a prep school. I don't know about public schools because they don't pay, but in prep schools, they'll go hand in hand because a school will be overseeing that talent. So if a bunch of schools are actually doing this, like, so many people will be looking forward to seeing kids actually play. And if you're looking forward to see kids play, kids become adults. And you're looking forward to seeing that adult play sometime down the line. So, yeah.
And what I would say is that it's interesting, though, because what we found is that a lot of private school kids, they're not the ones playing sports. And it doesn't really make sense to us because y'all actually have the money. Like, y'all can pay for training. Y'all travel every summer. Y'all are good. But it's the public school kids who are like, I don't have any money. Unfortunately, I don't want to sound bad when I say this, but they don't really have all the resources. So they play sports for fun, but they're kind of like, well, this is our way out. The kid even knows that. The parents don't really know that. The kid sees it. They're like, this is our way out. We got to do it. But it's unfortunate that the private school kids are kind of just like, they're spoiled. They do things anyhow. They can't take correction. And we're kind of like, yo, are you serious? Like, y'all are favored. Y'all parents are doctors, lawyers, and y'all are acting like this. And then when they see people on Instagram, social media in the U.S., they think they can be just like them. And we're just kind of like, this doesn't make any sense. And we're all black people. So it's like, if you're seeing another black person in America being successful, obviously you think you can do the same, but you don't know how that person got there. That person, so in America, public schools are good. I know in Nigeria, public schools aren't the best, but over there, public schools are good. You don't have to pay to go to school. You can go to a public school and be straight. Obviously, here in Nigeria, you got to go to a private school. So it's weird how, you got private school kids here looking at public school kids in other parts of the world, admiring them, but they don't want to put the work in. It's just like a big disconnect. But we're trying our best. It's only two of us. We're trying our best. We do what we can. So we're hopeful, though. I mean, we've been here 9 years now. We came here in 2015, and it was our first time ever coming here. We never had been here before. We literally just came on the plane with our mom, and we're like, all right, it was a leap of faith. Let's see what happens. Never experienced electricity problems, never experienced water problems. Then we got here, and we were like, yo, what is going on? I was watching Breaking Bad. It just went off. So I'm like, okay, what's next? 5 hours, no light. How is that possible? So, we just got to do better as people. We're doing better, though. I've seen it. But let's just keep it going.
So I'm getting told we only got 2 minutes.
We good.
But any more questions before? Okay. Make it quick, please.
Yeah, I think this conversation is like super like interesting, like because you think about music when in relation to Nigeria. I guess a quick question is like just going away from this conversation, like what do you think is like the first practical solution to creating some sort of like proof of concept to sort of get funding for systems? Because I think what you said that was really interesting was this idea of systems and branding, because I think when you think about like going to the NBA or NFL seems like a very lofty goal, but I'm very interested in sort of like breaking things down and sort of like starting at the granular. Like the one thing you said that was very interesting was this idea of like training centers, for example. So I guess like in terms of like trying to get funding to start things like a training center, what is the proof of concept to sort of demonstrate that there's a need for investment in sports in Nigeria?
That's it.
Looking for the next big thing. That's it. That's literally what Afrobeats is now about, looking for the next one. So you have to apply that in sports. Like, if you watch the movie, there's a movie called Air about Michael Jordan. AAU culture took off because shoe teams got involved and said, Nike got involved, Adidas got involved, Reebok got involved and said, I'm looking for the next Michael Jordan. And because of that, they went searching everywhere. And because they went searching everywhere, they invested in a system that says, let's just be seeing kids play every single weekend, and we take it from there.
So what if Access Bank, GT Bank, Providence Bank, Fidelity Bank, what if they all are like, you know what, let's do this with sports? They got the money, right? All our money's in their banks. So imagine if they put it and gave it back to us the right way, as opposed to, having a marathon, which is cool. Like, it's great. Or just doing something once a year, let's give these guys shirts. Let's go wash some cars. Like, all that is cap.
The idea has been sold before, but I'm not sure we're the first ones. It's up to them to say yes.
Oh, there we go.
That's good. I was just going to say, you guys are proof of concept.
Oh,
you got 3 NFL players. currently active? How many collegiate playing at D1 schools?
5.
Right. So if I go to US, I'm like, they've done this without the resources. Imagine if y'all give us $200K to create some type of small facilities. We can then scale this. This is a business model. This is a management system. These are conversations we're having. So that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.